So PhDs face two problems with productivity. The first one is not producing enough. And then the second problem that we often face is getting stuck. And the first one's actually pretty easy. It is just doing more of the same that you've already heard about many different times on this channel, probably on other different channels. But I want to talk about the second problem, which is getting stuck. How do you actually get stuck? I think, in my view, so if you don't know me, I'm Professor Dave Massack. I'm an associate professor of innovation, strategy, and entrepreneurship. And I think, in my view, this is actually the most important problem, because the first problem of not producing enough is really, to me, and I have a distinct view, I don't think producing enough is really all that much of a problem. It's easy to find different ways today to go and produce more. You've got all sorts of artificial intelligence, all these kind of things. I'd rather focus on the things that are very difficult for you and how to get unstuck all of the time, that you're going to experience something. So what happens when you get unstuck? What is going on there? It's where the world is essentially incongruent. It doesn't match what you're thinking about. And this is if you're doing your job as a PhD, this should happen often. This means, or if you're being challenged, this should happen often to you, where you are very much stuck and you don't know what to do and you don't know where to turn to. First of all, the first thing that you should always have is to try to get a good mentor that's going to push and challenge and ask questions and get you to think about things. Now, I realize not everybody, and that's part of the reciprocity project that I've been trying to put out, is that not everybody gets that. And I think it's extraordinarily rare. Now I realize how rare of an opportunity I had to talk to some of the brightest minds in the entire world on the topic that I was interested in. I had three amazing people that were deeply interweaved, and so many more people that were deeply interweaved, giving me thoughts and insights in a very supportive way. But here's the thing: what do you do if you don't have that? I think the first thing that you should do if you get stuck, and getting stuck is if you spent more than, say, a half an hour or an hour at something and you can't figure out what to do, best thing to do, pause, go for a walk. Just get out, remove yourself from the situation, and relax a little bit. The research on this is not necessarily that clear as far as I know, but it works every single time. I think it's a blood flow issue. I think that there is something to do with hormones, perhaps, some things going on that changes you and changes your mind and gets you in a different state. And almost always you're going to think about something in a different way when you go through walking and you walk, right? The key thing is to remember that we are human beings, and human beings are meant to walk a lot, all of the time, many, many miles a day. So the more that we sit in front, and that's why it's a counterbalance in terms of what we're doing. The thoughtful thinking it doesn't fit very well. It doesn't correlate very well with just doing more of the same and putting out more stuff. So you have to get more and understand a little bit more, get that blood flow, whether it's walking, whether it's doing push-ups, or whether it is you're just doing everything you possibly can to get that going. I think another thing that really helps for me is, so the second thing that's important, remove yourself from any computer. Just take a pause, go and look at something else. Stand up, look at something else, go and do something. I know that lots of people don't want to hear this, but removing yourself from the computer is going to get you out of that trance state. I've now sort of figured out, I was like, okay, why is it that I get so fixated on my computer all the time? I get that sort of weird tunnel vision. I think my own theory, and whether it's right or wrong, I don't know. I think it's human beings have been programmed for tens of thousands of years to stare at a campfire. And we get this feeling of euphoria or safeness by having a campfire beside us. And so the computer screen gives you that same feeling, and so you end up staring into the computer screen without sort of thinking, and it deactivates the mind. Now, that's my theory. Whether it's correct, I don't know, but that's my own theory. Now, the third thing is to make sure that you are talking about it. Now, I know almost all of you are not going to have somebody to talk to, right? I don't think that that is common. You may not have somebody to talk to. Openly just talk to yourself. Create that character. And I know not everybody has a person that they talk to in their mind. Physically out loud talk about things and mutter and go through all those things. That is going to get you unstuck very, very quick. At least and it almost always happens. It almost always, I've seen it so many times with myself and other people that I care about, that if you just start vocalizing what you're doing, all of a sudden your brain is like, it's working, it's firing at the right spots. And you can unstuck very quickly. And these sort of tricks of, going for a walk, doing jumping jacks, removing yourself, getting you to voice and talk about these things. This is what human beings did for tens of thousands of years, right? Like we talked with other people as we were doing this. This is what we do as human beings. We do all of those things. And so we have to mimic those things to get ourselves to get into that state, that relaxed state of what we actually do as human beings, to come up with more novel solutions. Now, the other thing is, if you're pursuing a certain direction, and I know that happens a lot, don't give up on it, right? Simply because that there is a problem that exists doesn't mean that you're wrong. It doesn't mean that the theory that you're looking at is right. It just means that there's a problem. And the theory is not matching with the real world. In the real world, the theory is not supposed to match with the real world, ever. That means that it's not good theory if it matches perfectly. And so you have to think about, okay, what do I either adjust what you're pursuing and what you're thinking about, or adjust the theory? You think about, okay, this is a moment of where we're getting some real insight here. It's not a moment of stuck, right? That's the other thing. That's the fourth thing to think about, is reframing. It's not a moment of stuck. It's a moment of, oh my gosh, I am discovering something that is incredible, because the way that I thought about it is totally wrong, and I have to switch my mind and go and do something else. And then that is probably an assumption. That is probably something that you need to explore that nobody has explored about. And this is, for me on my side, as somebody that is going through this, done this 20 years of experience of doing this, if not more. Like this is one of the most frustrating things for me, is that people just give up right away because they come up with a problem. And really the problem is the thing. It's like the most impactful insight where you're like, oh my gosh, this is the way that the world works. Well, no guff, right? Like the world is not supposed to match what a theory is, and this is going to be different. And this is going to give a whole bunch of insight than what you thought before, and you're going to come up with all sorts of interesting things. But you have to stick with it. You have to go, and you have to think about things in different ways. Every moment that I've been stuck, I have practiced some sort of thing like this, that it has, and it's gotten me to a new way of thinking. And all of a sudden I'm walking and something pops in my mind. I'm like, oh yeah, I should have actually talked about that. That is an important insight that I need to talk about and include it in terms of what I'm doing. Or, oh wow, you know what? I can look at it differently. This is a problem. Why didn't I do that in the first place? So this sort of talking, getting exposure, walking, in every way that you possibly can is extraordinarily insightful. Just go and do things, interact, get that blood flow going. Imagine yourself that you are 10,000 years ago, what you would have been doing, trying to mimic those things as best you can. And then you're going to get all sorts of insights. All right, take care. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.